In the previous Ghostbusters video, we covered the alleged production troubles of the Ghostbusters remake. According to the 4chan tipster who first broke that story, the problems were in no small part caused by a quote, lame duck of a script. In this video, we'll look deeper into what that lame duck of a script might entail, the lengths Sony were willing to go to ensure the original cast members would agree to do cameo appearances, and the fallout, damage control, and Twitter meltdowns over the disastrous audience response to the trailer. In the Sony hack of 2014, a plethora of personal emails from Sony staff were leaked. Among them, an email from director Paul Feig to Amy Pascal about his pitch for the Ghostbusters. This email was written while the script was still being developed, but it gives an indication of where Feig wanted to take the movie.
Amy, here's my take on it. It's a reboot of the franchise in a world, our world, that has never actually had any legitimate contact with the ghost world. Our villain ghost is an executed murderer, a Ted Kaczynski type, think Peter Dinklage, who has left behind a manifesto of how he wants to change and destroy the world. When his execution is hit by a supercharged electrical storm, he is turned into a powerful ghost able to rouse other villainous spirits from the ghost world to carry out the ever-expanding plans of his manifesto. Our 4 new female Ghostbusters come together in an origin story that sees them forming a team based on their diverse skills and plays with the invention and trial and error of their various ghostbusting technology and techniques as they try to stop the villain and his ever-growing force of evil ghosts. Which is a very boring way of saying we'll see 4 very different women come together and figure out in funny, scary, and action-packed ways how to save New York City and the world. The first film will deal with this one mission and the formation of our team and the evolution of their hardware, and by the end result in them forming their actual Ghostbusters business versus starting a business mid-film like the original movie. However, I would like to keep their business as a secret government agency in a world where the government has worked hard to cover up the events of this first reboot in order to keep the public from knowing that there is now a possible reoccurring ghost threat over our country. I'm playing with the idea that, a la Close Encounters, the government stages an evacuation of Midtown Manhattan to keep the public from knowing about the ghost threat, so that even though most of Midtown Manhattan is a mess after the final battle, they are able to explain it away as a gas explosion or something to that effect. This will keep the franchise from having to denounce the Ghostbusters in a sequel or drop them back into a world in which the public is now fully aware of ghosts. This will give the franchise more longevity. There's a funny dynamic we want to play with where the government eventually starts working with the Ghostbusters but has to keep denouncing them publicly, having a Cecily Strong type character always saying terrible things about them in press conferences and then apologizing to them behind the scenes, even though her public attacks on them get more and more personal. Quote, "I'm sorry, I just have to make it sound convincing." Unquote. Tonally, the movie will be a bit scarier and more high-tech than the original, and the set pieces will be bigger while still being very funny. For example, I want in the third act to have the entire police force and army accompany the Ghostbusters to the final battle, but since our villain only wants to deal with the Ghostbusters and wants to make the government look ridiculous, he possesses the entire police and army forces and makes them do a big, ridiculous dance number in the middle of Fifth Avenue, thus neutralizing them and delighting himself. I think having our main villain be both evil and funny in the ways screws with our world as he's trying to carry out the points of his manifesto, get revenge on everyone who slighted him, humiliate and take down Wall Street, make the United States look ridiculous to the rest of the world, and eventually destroy New York City, which to him is the brain of the US, as well as have fun with the ghost he picks to carry out various tasks. Could be all dead villains and famous criminals he recruits from the ghost world, and, in what I think could be a billion-dollar idea, recruits the ghosts of evil beings from other parts of the universe. Yes, ghost aliens. Quote, "Our world isn't the only place in the universe with bad and dangerous beings that have died, you know. There's a lot of bored dead monsters out there who are just looking for something to do. Anyway, these are all things we're experimenting with and are looking forward to exploring as we write the first draft. I hope this helps your lunch. Break a leg, smiley face, Paul."
It is clear from the correspondence that the movie is intended to start a franchise, as Feig explicitly says he doesn't want the Ghostbusters to be established as quickly as in the original, but he'd rather drag their formation out over the course of the entire movie, meaning we won't get to see the established and seasoned Ghostbusters in action until the sequel. The email, of course, only discusses ideas for the first draft of the script. We don't know what actually went into that first draft, or how the script evolved from the first draft to the shooting script. But thanks to an unfaithful servant, we might have that answer. Reddit user Stance1984 claims to work in post-processing. He also claims to have seen the final movie. Since his employer, in his words, treats its staff poorly and doesn't give a crap about them, he doesn't mind violating the NDA to talk about the movie. This is where another healthy warning is in place. Since there is no way to verify this guy's story, take this with a grain of salt. However, plenty of movies have been spoiled months before their release in this exact way on Reddit before, and what he says does line up with what we see in the trailers. So, assuming this guy is on the level, spoiler alert! The plot is about to be revealed. Stance1984 writes a bit disjointed and unclear at points, but it can be summarized as follows. The movie begins with a tour of the deceased Madame Albridge's estate, where the supernatural events start occurring, much like the library of the original movie. After the tour guide screams in horror, we cut to the Ghostbusters music and join our Ghostbusters-to-be. Kristen Wiig is a college professor who is trying to get her tenure. It would appear she has co-written the book Ghosts of Our Past with Melissa McCarthy. Despite a quarrel over writing credits, Wiig seemingly wants her name removed as it harms her chances at tenure. McCarthy and fellow scientist Kate McKinnon convince Kristen Wiig to join them at the Albridge mansion to investigate what's happening there. Cue the slime puking scene, which causes Kristen Wiig to scream in panic that ghosts are real. Melissa McCarthy sees fit to upload this to YouTube. The video goes viral, which leads Kristen Wiig not only losing any chance of tenure, but she is also fired by her boss, played by Charles Dance. This somehow leads the three to create what is to become the Ghostbusters. Meanwhile, Rowan, a hotel worker who can see ghosts, and who has been bullied and rejected all his life, has built a machine that breaks the barrier between the world of the living and the dead. In effect, a ghost channeling machine. Angry and wanting revenge on the world, he wants to bring forth as many ghosts as possible to pester and torture the living. He encounters MTA worker Leslie Jones, who sees some of these ghosts. Spooked, she ends up joining what is to become the Ghostbusters for her street smarts. When they look for a suitable office space, they find the fire station but can't afford the rent. Instead, they set up shop in a Chinese restaurant, which is great for Melissa McCarthy as she loves Chinese food in general and wontons in particular. They hire Chris Hemsworth as the dim-witted eye candy secretary with whom Kristen Wiig wants to have sex. The team busts their first ghost, a green dragon at a rock concert, and becomes famous after that. A news segment refers to them as the Ghostbusters, which is how they get the name. Meanwhile, Rowan is summoning ever more ghosts. The Ghostbusters track him down and confront him, and during this confrontation, he kills himself. In the aftermath, the Ghostbusters are branded as hoaxers by the mayor. That is just the beginning of their problems, because Rowan now returns as a ghost and possesses Melissa McCarthy. After Leslie Jones slaps the ghost of Rowan out of McCarthy using the power of Patty, it moves on to possess Chris Hemsworth instead. Rowan possessed Hemsworth then uses the ghost channeling machine to unleash loads of ghosts upon the city, including the ghosts of a bunch of old-timey mobsters. Rowan possessed Hemsworth then proceeds to control the city, including leading the army, presumably sent to stop him, in a dance routine. After another confrontation, the ghost of Rowan is separated from an unharmed Hemsworth. Rowan then asks them what form they choose, seemingly out of the blue. This is when Leslie Jones recalls some graffiti on the subway, the one we know as the Ghostbusters logo. Rowan then becomes a giant version of the ghost from the Ghostbusters logo. The Ghostbusters cross the streams, which doesn't have the intended effect, but it does lead to a portal being opened in a hole in the ground. After some shenanigans, they are able to flush Ghost Rowan down this hole, while getting out of it themselves courtesy of the hose of a fire truck being tied around their waists. The city is saved. The Ghostbusters are still branded as hoaxes, but now they can afford the rent on the fire station and relocate there. The movie ends with Leslie Jones listening to a magnetic tape and hearing the name Zool. In the opinion of Stance 1984, the jokes are lame and the movie is a complete joke. He says that there's really nothing serious happening and nothing is scary. The dialogue is horrible, cheesy, and loaded with slapstick and side comments that ruin any tension in the film, and that his colleagues agree with him. In short, the trailer would appear to be representative of the finished movie. Stance 1984 also confirms that all surviving leads of the original have cameos, as other characters of course. This comes as no surprise, as from the Sony hack we also learned that Sony actually considered aggressive litigation against Bill Murray, if he rejected them again. This was presumably the case for the others as well. As we've seen, the domestic trailer has been met with a largely negative response, racking up more than twice as many dislikes as likes at the time of this recording. On March 9th, Sony Pictures UK released an international trailer, which was somehow received even worse than the US trailer. 24 hours after it was released, the international trailer had gotten 4 times as many dislikes as likes. This abysmal reception to the movie's marketing material has not gone down well at Sony, where the first head has already rolled. On March 9th, Variety announced that George Leon, VP of Consumer Marketing and a 16-year veteran of Sony, quote, had decided, unquote, to leave Sony in May. Leon was the one who combined licensing, product placement, and promotion under one roof at Sony, and he has been heavily involved in the Ghostbusters rollout. The timing of his sudden so-called decision to leave, without saying what he is doing next, strongly suggests he was fired over the disastrous reception to the domestic Ghostbusters trailer. In addition to letting staff go, Sony appears to be in full damage control mode online. Not only have a number of YouTube videos critical of the movie and the trailer been taken down, a number of YouTube commenters have on Reddit and other forums report that Sony heavily moderates the comment sections of the trailers on their official channels. Many seem to experience that Sony deletes comments with legitimate grievances about the content, especially complaints posted by female users, but leave any and all comments with a racist or sexist slant intact. Could this be a sign that Sony is trying to create the impression that all backlash against the movie is due to sexism and racism, not unlike what Fox did with Fant Four Stick last year? Paul Feig had a history of stooping down to troll levels and dropping F-bombs on Twitter, even before the trailer dropped. The poor reception of the trailer certainly didn't help matters, with critical audience comments now appearing on not just his Twitter account, but on his cast's Twitter accounts too. Leslie Jones tried to push and defend the movie for the first few days, but threatened to leave Twitter on March 8th, and hasn't made another tweet between then and the making of this video. Perhaps more interesting than those who trade blows with those critical of the movie is that the bigger stars say nothing. Neither Kristen Wiig nor Kate McKinnon have any presence on social media, and thus far haven't personally promoted the movie at all. Melissa McCarthy retweeted Feig's tweet that the trailer was out, but nothing beyond that. So far, none of the lead cast members the 4chan poster claimed were unhappy with the movie have come forward and defended it in public. As always, we will keep you up to date with future developments and what they might mean here at Midnight's Edge.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit subscribe so you can catch all of our upcoming videos. For more podcasts, news, and reviews, check us out at midnightsedge.net and follow us on Twitter at midnightsedge. Also check out our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/midnightsedge.